Okay, morning. We look at explain why governments provide subsidies. Okay, so straightforward question. I hope you haven't forgotten what subsidies mean. All right, so this one, keywords subsidy. Okay, so you will know that you need to define, right? So you have subsidies. Then what are the things that we need for this essay? Okay, so what are the ingredients needed, right? So definition is one. You can give an explanation, so you can explain how subsidies work, you can draw a diagram, you can talk about changes in demand supply, then you need to give the reasons. Okay, so reasons, why is it that they are giving subsidies, right? So when you talk about reasons, then it will go away from demand supply only. So the reasons can come from other chapters. If you are trying to solve a problem, if you are trying to, yeah, whatever reasons. Okay, we'll take a look at those later. All right, so we look at definition first. Okay, so subsidies, again, in the real life, you can have government giving you subsidies, right? As a consumer, I can give you free cash, but that's not the case here. Okay, so we talk about the firm's perspective, you have to reduce the cost of production. All right, then, okay, this one straightforward. If you want, can give an example here. Let's solve as an example. So let's say for instance, Singapore government provides subsidies to let's say local university students. Okay, so this one roughly like I know like let's say SUSS, which was SIM formerly, the government gives like annual subsidies, so they reduce the fees to half for locals. Then of course, they got other further discounts lah. Let's say if you're alumni, if you are above 40 years old, then you get even more discount. Then let's say for NUS, this one was when my friend was studying lah. Okay, so that was last I recall. It was about 8K per year or per sem. And then the overall fees are like 20 odd K, which is okay. If you look at the full fees, it will be about 40 to 50,000 over 4 years for like a full degree program. Okay, so about 40 to 50,000. Of course, if you go overseas, it's not expensive. Okay, this one is local. If you want other examples, feel free to add in. This one just to illustrate that you know the examples. Okay, so this one done. Then we look at okay, so we're going to start with explaining about subsidies first. No reasons, nothing, just purely about subsidies, and we draw the diagram. So here we have explained the changes at the first for this first explanation paragraph. So again, this one reminder, 4 steps. Okay, so it keeps stressing. So 4 steps, we have subsidies provided. So you stated what happened, right? So government gives subsidies. Then after that second step, you're going to explain. Okay, so cost of production goes down, cost savings, and then you reduce the price. So the first way to explain, if you recall, right, is this one. So they have cost savings, they give consumers. That's why supply curve goes right. Another way to explain, you can say that with a lower cost, the profitability will go up. Okay, then after that, because of higher profits, you will start to increase your production. So you can earn more money, I will sell more, right? So that's the intuition. So either way, then third thing, supply goes up. Okay, so third step, supply goes up. Fourth step, supply curve shifts right. Okay, so this one, if you are drawing, then you state this step 4. If you're not drawing, then it's fine. So then in terms of the diagram, this one I think you know, right? So nothing to explain. But when you include this because we want to be perfect, right? We want to write as much as possible. This question is very straightforward. It's very easy. So when you do easy questions, your competition level will be higher because if people choose, they will also likely perform well, right? So you need to find ways to do better than people. So we need to explain the adjustment process, which is why we included the red markings here. Okay, so this is surplus. So the surplus quantity supplied higher than quantity demanded, so that will push down the prices. Okay, so we'll have this portion so that likely people will miss this out, right? They will just say that price goes down, quantity goes up, that's all. But you're also going to explain how you reach the new equilibrium. Okay, so you guys are done and remove the diagram. This one cannot reverse. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so this portion here, this until here. Okay, this one I'll highlight, this one just as a reminder. All right, so you will explain the adjustment process. We say that you have a surplus. Again, surplus, right? This term by itself is not consumer surplus, it's not producer surplus. It is quite different. Okay, so we're talking about QS, quantity supplied, more than quantity demanded, QD. That is all, right? So when you highlight the different areas, consumer surplus, producer surplus, those are different things. Okay, so downward pressure on price, that will push down the prices. As your price falls, QD goes up, QS goes down until they are equal, right? So you need this part when you're talking about demand supply essays. We're talking about explaining the adjustment process. So now you have come to the results. You have come to the effect, right? So when the government imposes the subsidies, all else the same, right? So no other changes. You are going to get a lower price. You are going to have a higher quantity, right? So this is the outcome that you will have. So you can use this as the indicator of why they want to provide subsidies. So they want things to be cheaper. They want to have higher consumption. So let's say the first reason is that when we impose or when we provide subsidies, it is to actually address, let's say, issues of equity. Okay, so we want to improve equity because these subsidies, let's say for healthcare, education, will help the poorer people more than the richer people, right? So you can close the income gap, you can improve equity levels. Okay, so this one should be quite straightforward to explain. So equity, right, we improve, this is the state of fairness, we are helping the low income consumers more. Okay, and then we also mentioned that it is especially for products like healthcare, education. Okay, so one of your economics goal is to achieve equity or higher levels. So this one is one. Second one, we can pair up with your second goal, which is about efficiency. Okay, so efficiency, this will relate to your market failure. So we use subsidies to address positive externalities. Okay, so we can talk about that in your second reason. Okay. So this is the last point, last paragraph. So you have efficiency. This part, we talk about positive externality. Okay, so if you don't want to define, okay, you need to define that. But if you don't want to explain the problem too much, then you just go and say how it solves the problem. All right. You don't need a diagram because that will be like very long. Okay, so you just need to explain like how it works. So you can make it more affordable. You're going to increase consumption. You're going to head to the allocative efficient level. Okay, so once you reach your QS, then you achieve maximum social welfare. That gives you your second objective achieved. All right, so if you want to give examples further, let's say you have a specific example like healthcare, education, you can give here. All right, if not, we have already done so above. All right, so this is already at the intro lah, so you don't have to give again. Okay, so once you have done your answers, just check through. Make sure that you have the definitions written, the subsidies definition. Make sure that you have explanation. All right, this one a bit long, so we push it later. So you need at least one diagram. Okay, so 90% of the time, or 95, 96% of the time, you will have a diagram. All right, very rare questions you don't need. So diagram must have. Then you need to explain your diagram. So we have done so here, right? So in terms of explanation for the whole answer, at least you need to explain what subsidies are. So it comes a lot about establishing relationships, right? They ask you the reasons for this, how would this affect that one? So you're linking two things together. So subsidies by itself, we are talking about reducing cost of production, etc. So we did it here, right? Then later on, the reasons, these are the linking part. So you have like subsidies and then the outcome, right? Subsidies and the outcome. So asking you, why do we want the outcome, right? Or what is the reason for subsidies? So we put the link together. So these are the reasons of the link. Okay, so make sure you have all these, at least two reasons. If you want to play safe, you have time, you give three reasons, right? But let's say now is a bit no time the exam, then don't risk it. Don't give three reasons, just start at two. Go and do your second question. Okay, so no issues. I move on to, oh my god. Okay, all right. So we have two key terms. Right? We have price floors, we have demerit goods. By itself, both can be a 10-mark essay just to explain the two concepts. Then you also have 15-mark questions in the past, right? We've gone through a lot just to deal with demerit goods, but we were using taxes, we are talking about legislation, we're talking about like public campaigns, right? Your awareness campaigns. So we didn't link price floor and also your demerit goods together. Okay, I don't recall that. Okay, so now we're going to link both together. Right? So price floor is your policy. You don't need to talk about other policy because they only say evaluate the effectiveness, right? By itself, is this good or not so good? Then your purpose is to reduce the consumption of demerit goods. Okay, so you can walk one at a time. All right, you can explain about the problem first, then you can talk about the solution, which is price floor, then the pros and cons. Okay, so this one, give me a while. Okay, so this part B, all right, 50 mark is part B, in case you're not aware. This is part B of the same part A. So I didn't jumble up the question. We have done the actual, no, not here. We have done the actual part A, which we just finished. And now this is the actual part B. Okay, so I didn't jumble up. That means you wouldn't have explained any of these points already. Okay, so I'm starting on both fresh. All right, so this one, like everything unexplained. Okay, let's define the problem first. So we're going to briefly. So just briefly, you don't need to spend like one essay length to explain about demerit goods. All right, that one is like too distracted in a sense. So very briefly, maybe 1-2 paragraphs worth. Then you go and explain how price floor will work out. Huh? What? So we will this is a condensed paragraph lah. Okay, so we went from defining all the way to like explaining, and then you talk about the outcome, which is that your day weight loss arises, and then you have loss of allocative. Okay, so this part is a summary of your like 10-mark essay explaining negative, and we didn't draw diagram yet because we're going to draw one for the price floor with the demerit goods. Okay, so of course, if you want, you can draw one here showing the problem lah, but that's not the main thing because they want to show solution than the problem. All right, and this part is a bit optional. If you don't want to, you can straight away skip this and talk about how you use the price floor to solve the problem if you want to, if you don't have time. Okay, this one is a bit optional. They are not asking about how the problem plays out, but how the solution plays out. Okay, so here we can go and talk about the policy. Explain, huh? All right. So how we get this, I'm not sure. Okay, I think the textbook, the notes shouldn't have this weird combination lah. Okay, they will cover like each separately. So first thing are the black portion. So we're gonna draw your negative externality and demerit goods as always. So start with your MPC, MPB first, get Q0. Then MSB is on the left side. Then you get QS. Again, this one will be MSC also. Okay, so at this point, I will check first. I am talking about negative externality. I'm talking about overconsumption. So QS should be on the left side of Q0. Okay, so if you get on the right side, then something wrong. Okay, it will become like under consumption, right? So you check first, make sure it's over. So QS on the left side. Okay, then once this is okay, then it seems correct. I will start to plot my minimum price. Now you recall that minimum price has to be above the equilibrium, right? When we did this by itself. So it has to be above. You cannot have it below. It has to be above. Okay. So above the equilibrium, that means anywhere here on top, right? But also cannot be anywhere because I want to achieve QS. Okay, so that's why here we box it up. Then I extend the dotted line, the red one, all the way up. Then I touch this point. Okay, then after that, I'll draw the line across. This gives me the minimum price. Okay, so at this level, the consumers will only buy QS. The price is above P0, so everything seems to hit the checklist. Then I'll just leave it as it is. Okay, so at first, the day weight loss will be this triangle. You can see, so at first, this is the day weight loss from the market failure. Minimum price also introduces a day rate loss by itself, which is this but QS is the allocative efficient point. Okay, so then the day rate loss will not exist because you are consuming at QS already. Okay, one more time in case you lose out or you miss out. Market failure by itself, the day rate loss will be this triangle, this one at the bottom. Okay, it is always pointing to the allocative quantity, allocative efficient quantity, right? So this small triangle. Minimum price on its own, if you recall, the day rate loss is this triangle because QS is what consumers buy given that it's so expensive. Q0 is the allocative efficient quantity on its own. But now, because you set QS to be the benchmark, the efficient point, so even if you have minimum price, it seems like there is no more day rate loss. Okay, once you have QS, then you have no more day rate loss. So this part, we are not shading any area. You are achieving nirvana. Okay, that's your best state. All right. So yeah, this is the diagram. Okay, I remove all right. I think should be enough time to draw. So we have explained how it works. We'll explain the diagram next. This one I just searched lah. Okay, so this is example. So here, okay, so far we have explained the problem. We have explained the policy. We have done the diagram. We have given the example. So we are going on next to talk about why it works. So the reasons for why it is effective. First portion or first reason, you can say that you are able to, let's say, adjust. Okay, so you're able to adjust. So you can look at the changes in QS, you can look at changes in the market, and you can always adjust. So it's not fixed. That is one reason. Second reason is that you can actually target a specific price. Okay, so if you look at taxes, for example, if you look at legislation will be blanket ban, right? So you will stop consumption. Public awareness will be like, we hope that you will not smoke. Taxes will be like, let's say we increase the taxes how much? The prices may or may not increase that much, right? Because if you recall from the tax incidence concept, okay, we know that how much the tax is, the prices will increase less than that. You recall, okay, suddenly a lot of things. Let's say we raise the taxes by 50 cents. 30 cents may go to consumers, 20 cents may be absorbed by the firms, right? So that there's a distribution amongst both parties. That's based on concept, okay? It could be a bit uncertain to actually control, right, the consumption because you may not be able to control how much the prices change. But here we can because we set the price, right? And you can keep adjusting. Okay, so you can merge into one point, you can separate into two reasons, up to you, but these will be the points for why it works. Okay, and also it's easy just okay, you're going to announce this price and to stop, right? You're not going to set taxes and hope that it reaches a certain price. Okay, so reasons for why it is effective. So the first point we have about the flexibility, you can keep changing. We link to the example here. Okay, then the last point for this part. Okay, so this point is about being able to clearly set your quantity, your price. Okay, so these two will be your reasons. So now we go on to why it is not so effective. Okay, so because 15 marks, and then if you only talk about one policy, right, based on the question, so we can afford to elaborate a bit more, right? That's why I'm giving 2 points for why it works, 2 points for why it doesn't. Okay, but if you don't have time to exam, then this part maybe you can give one reason. Okay, so you can cut short a bit, right? And the fact that you have explained how it works, right, also shows that it works. So you don't need to give so many reasons. So now we go on to why it doesn't work. Okay, so first reason could be that your equity levels will worsen. Right? So we're always revolving around the same things. Okay, so you catch the pattern. So equity level worsens because once you raise the price, you are going to affect the poorer consumers more than the richer ones. Okay, that's your drawback, right? That's your trade-off. So you solve this problem, but you lose your equity, right? So you get efficiency, you lose equity. Straightforward. Okay, equity levels, that is your first point. Okay, so it doesn't work because equity levels get affected. Second thing, we can mention that it doesn't solve the problem, right? So you are getting them to account for the third-party effects, right? External costs, but technically it still exists, right? So it's not really a long-term solution. Okay, if you really want to solve it at the root, you may want to consider other policies like public education. Best if people don't smoke, right? Then don't have such problem. But if you want to smoke, then we have this in place so that you smoke, but we charge you a higher price. Okay, so that could be your last point. Okay, so we say that it's not long term because you don't address the root cause of the problem. Okay, so third party effects still arise, just that you are doing something to deal with it, right? But you're not removing it totally. Okay, so if you have other points you find that could be useful, you can also mention here. All right, this one just suggestions lah. Okay, so it could be fast, it could be flexible, but it doesn't solve the root cause. It creates other problems like equity issues. Okay, so efficiency should be addressed because you're at QS already. Okay, so that part will not be mentioned now. All right. So you have about 2 points here, you have about 2 points here. If you still have time the exam, right? Of course, you decide lah. Okay, if you still have time, then you can give a third point, right? Here or maybe even here. Okay, but I suggest you write your conclusion first, then you need to check your answer also, right? Don't like, oh, I got like 10 minutes left, I insist write another point. Okay, then the rest cannot finish. All right. So, okay, last part is evaluation. Okay, so by now you're experts lah. We've done so many that you roughly know what to write. Okay, never mind. Okay, so when you do EV, come back to the question, you look at what they're asking you, you're attempting to answer it directly. Okay, so it's like a verbal conversation. If I ask you, what do you think about the government, right? Then you're going to give a straightforward answer, good, bad, whatever. Okay, so you're not going to explain the whole history of the government. You're not going to draw me a diagram. You're not going to like teach me 5 lectures about the government first, then you need to answer, right? We assume that we all know the context. But because for this answer, we will have to go through like all this. Okay, so now take it that it doesn't exist, right? You're not going to summarize your point. You're going to give your opinions, and you have to be something different from the answers you have already written. So the effectiveness of price floors in achieving reduction in consumption of demerit goods. So we look at some countries like Indonesia, they have this in place. Singapore, I don't think have. But majority of the countries, when they deal with demerit goods, they use like a string of policies. And so you have like public education, you have taxes, legislation, all that. So there's no one best. And this also means that this by itself doesn't give you 100% of the results we want. Okay, so it's not sufficient essentially. It can be good for a very short term because it increases the price rate away, right? So it's very fast. But if you want something long term permanent, then you need other policies. Okay, so that could be one of the points to mention. Yeah. We can, if it's just been reaction, then yeah. Of course, if you look at like addiction and all that, they may not. But if you compare the other policies, then okay, so again for this, you look through, you need to have like a solid one, right? Because they will give you evaluation marks separately. Okay, so this one is by its own worth some marks. Then if you want to cover both sides, you can. If you don't need to, if you don't want to, it's fine. If let's say you feel strongly that this is useless, it is okay. Okay, if you're trying, this is the best, also can. Right, again, it's your opinion. You're not trying to have a balanced view here. In fact, if you can give like a one-sided view, your opinions and explain well, it's also worth a lot of marks. Okay, but if you don't know, you're not sure, you're on the fence, then you can explain both sides. It's fine. But don't summarize above. Please don't say it works because blah 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 and all that. Hear me say a lot of times. So give something new, something different, compare long-term, short-term, compare impact on stakeholders, the reality, right? Like, do the governments use it? Do you observe a lot of governments using? Or do you observe like only that few using this policy, right? Then you roughly can gauge the effectiveness. Everyone using that is quite popular, quite effective, right? let everyone using Moderna vaccine, then it should be quite good. But no one is using like XXX vaccine. Then you feel a bit scared. So maybe that vaccine doesn't work so well. Okay, so that's the intuition. Okay, otherwise I see you all later. All right.